First meeting of the season of the Budget Committee to order. I ask that you please all rise, and if you would join David Ilg and the rest of the Budget Committee in pledging allegiance to our country's flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all and welcome. My name is Stan Heinrich. I am the chair of the Budget Committee. We are going to start tonight with our budget reviews. Tonight we'll be doing the elementary school, the upper elementary school, the middle school, and the high school budget reviews. Before we get started, I just need to say that Matt had to go get a longer cable for our VoIP telephone unit so that we can get Carol Lang hooked in with us and she can participate from Florida in the meeting. And if I sound a little funny, it's because I've been home for a week nursing a nasty cough that's starting to get better, or at least they tell me it is. I did want to go over a couple of things before we get started with reviews and welcomes and introductions and all of that. Just so people at home and everybody else understands what the Budget Committee does. We operate under RSA 32, and it's our job to review and recommend what are prudent expenses for the school district. And it doesn't mean we might agree with everything that's being presented, but is it a prudent expense? And it is not our purview to make policy. That's what the school board does. And so for those of you out there who look at Budget Committee meetings and wonder why we don't have in-depth discussions about how many pencils or paper clips people are supposed to have, that is why. And as long as everybody understands that, it makes the job a lot easier to do all the way around for the administrators and for the Budget Committee members. So I do ask you to think about that at any time when you're talking about something that might be personal to you in the school district. What can we do, what we can't do? And if I accidentally have to stop you for a reason, I'll try to explain it as best I can, and then we will move on. We do have the luxury of this VoIP telephone unit, which we used extensively last year. We're going to be using it again this year. Carol Lang is down in Florida, and she has been a member of this committee for a while, and she does her homework remotely, and she will participate remotely. When she comes online, just so you all understand, if we take any votes on anything, and that includes adjournment, it would have to be done in a roll call vote, and that is by state RSAs. So if you notice, before we adjourn, I'm going to disconnect the phone call because we don't need to do a roll call vote to adjourn. But just so you understand, that's what happens when we have somebody participating on the telephone. The first school we are going to be reviewing, and quite frank, I'm stalling a little bit for Matt to get here with the right cable, and then I can get Carol hooked in. It's going to be the elementary school, and the liaisons for that were David Ilg is the team leader, and Kevin Bobbitt and Brandy Nunez. And I do not know this year who is the spokesperson for the elementary schools with the main presentation. Okay. I would ask that the elementary school representatives please come up to the table. And I'm going to do this introduction once around the table so that all of the administrators can know who's here and who is not here, and then I will ask you folk if you would introduce your group.
Absolutely.
I would like to start out over on my far right. Shelley, if you would like to introduce yourself to everybody in the audience, please. And we'll go around this way.
Yes, that would help. We'll start over. Shelley Jacoby.
Naomi Schoenfeld, I represent the school board.
David Ilg.
Kevin Bobbitt.
Brandy Nunez. And Heather Gage.
Stan Heinrich.
Jordan Gwal-Yumi.
Spelling is
John
very
Hanson.
important.
Chuck Mower.
And our recorder is my wife, Pat Heinrich. Kim, why don't you introduce everybody at your side of the table, please.
I'm Kimberly Yarlott. I'm the principal at Reeds Ferry School and this year's liaison for the budget sessions. And to my right, I have Rachel Schneider. She's the assistant principal of Reeds Ferry School. And to her right, Julie DeLuca, the assistant principal at Thorntons Ferry School. To my left is Michelle Romaine. She is the principal of Mastercola Elementary School. To her left is Bridie Bellemare. She is the principal of Thorntons Ferry Elementary School. And to her left, we have Alicia Hanson-Prue, who is the assistant principal at Mastercola Elementary School.
And have you decided, do you want to present your budget first or have your liaisons talk about it first?
I'm going to defer to David Ilg as the liaison for the lower elementary schools.
Okay. David, why don't you start off, please?
So we met with the elementary principals on Friday, January 19th. We met at Mastercola Elementary School. There was a couple things they wanted to show us that will be in the maintenance budget. It was some cabinets and some cafeteria tables. As far as the elementary school budgets go, everything is right in line with what it's been for the past couple of years. They do have furniture replacement. That's been a multi-year replacement plan. Some music equipment at the different schools, and Reeds Ferry is looking to get a new electric piano. The cost of that's approximately $1,500, but that should save us with tuning costs over the next couple of years. So other than that, everything's right in line with where it's been the previous couple of years. Math textbooks, or math texts in general, went up a little bit because of the new program, but nothing, no real difference from previous years.
Brandy, do you have anything you'd like to add? Whoops, sorry. My fault. Brandy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. Kevin?
All set.
All righty. I'm going to stop right here for a minute. We want to try and get this hooked up. I want to get Carol online as quickly as I can. So we're not going to be in recess, but we're not going to be doing anything for a minute. Why don't you sing?
For a reason. Yeah. Or am I having an episode here?
It's kind of like
Maybe both.
All right. I think this is ready to rock and roll.
It's soothing, though. Yeah, can you just, yeah. Let it kind of walk through the room.
It's called Budget in C minor.
Things coming up, phone up, register.
All right. Okay.
Kind of like an episode of The Twilight Zone, eh? Right, Friday?
Good evening, Carol. You are live. I have to go through the thing. I'm on the phone with Carol Lang. And where are you, Carol Lang?
Satellite Beach, Florida.
And is there anybody with you outside of yourself?
Just my kitty Ginger.
Okay. We have a very well-educated cat. We are just starting
I
out
think she should become a member of the committee.
honorary. We are just starting out reviewing elementary school budgets. David Ilg has gone through the liaison presentation. We're now going to hear from the elementary school and Kim Yarlott. So if you got something you need to know, give a shout and we'll let you talk.
Yeah, so with any key information from David's overview, at some point somebody will kind of give me a 20-second recap.
That'll have to be later.
Okay.
All righty, Kim, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Carol. We hope all is well.
Hello.
I'm here with my two colleagues, principal colleagues, and the three assistant principals from the lower elementary schools, and I'm serving as a liaison for our team. And Mr. Ilg was so kind to meet with us at Mastrocola Elementary School along with Kevin Bobbitt and Brandy Nunez. We met last Friday to review our budget, which is quite thin. We did have a chance to go over some of what was happening with the furniture replacement, as well as have the opportunity to show the team the current state of the cafeteria tables, which is in the budget for Mastrocola Elementary School this year. Thorntons Ferry School and Reeds Ferry School have already replaced their cafeteria tables, so we had an opportunity to see that, even though it stands in the maintenance budget, as well as to see an example of a sink that was in great need of repair due to rotting that was taking place at the bottom of the sink. We also had a chance to look at the difference between what our replacement furniture, in particular the desks, look like in comparison to the ones that are worn out. We spent about an hour and a half, or maybe an hour and 15 minutes together reviewing various components of the budget. There are very few outliers. One is a Reeds Ferry School electric piano to replace our current piano, which is in the range of about $1,500, and then to just go over, sort of do an overview of what are some bigger needs and wants and wishes that perhaps aren't in the budget, but are not prudent to be in the budget at this time. We're offering a very fiscally sound budget, putting that forward to you, and as you probably can see, in particular, Carol, as you reviewed your budget in Florida. So I don't have anything to add at this point other than to entertain any questions.
Heather.
What do you believe are some of those areas that aren't fiscally prudent at this time?
So we always aim, I mean, I've been here since 2005, and we've always aimed to have really a very, very fiscally sound budget that reflects the logic model in the area of numeracy, literacy, technology, and wellness. And so, for example, one of the examples I provided was that last year's assistant principal, Nick Kohler, and myself went forward to look for a shed, an outdoor shed, to hold supplies. So we just use as an example where we might go out into the public to look for certain donations.
Follow up? Is there, that makes a lot of sense, and we certainly as a public really appreciate that work and, trying to get donations to help our schools and that kind of thing. Is there anything that would stand out to you regarding professional learning for educators, principal leadership, those things that really help instruction and personalized learning in the classroom? Anything on that level that you believe just can't happen this year perhaps, but maybe would happen next year as a request? That can be for any of you.
I'm seeing my colleagues shake their heads no. I feel that we in Merrimack are really fortunate to have the professional development that we're afforded, and we really do take advantage of that, and we have a lot of kind of teacher kind of examples of where we might send out a few teachers and have them come back and teach their colleagues so that we can build capacity for professional development. We also are really fortunate where we streamline priorities for professional development, and you'll see that come off of our August Academy, whereby we'll have a particular theme. So for example, in the past it has been around inquiry. This last year it was around the adoption of the math program, so that we really take that opportunity to have 3 days that are devoted at the beginning of the year to very comprehensive professional development. So nothing came up in that area for us.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else on this side of the table? Yes, David.
I forgot to bring this up when I did my overview. So obviously the kindergarten is going to be a big topic for a later date, but this budget, and Kim can say it a lot better than I can, this budget has no bearing on full-day kindergarten, right? That you've presented?
That is correct. The budget represents preschool through 4th grade at all 3 of our schools. However, the numbers on the line items are for half-day kindergarten.
All set, David? Anybody over on this side of the fence? Carol, do you have anything?
Yeah, just a couple of quick ones. One is on the piano replacement. Is that a general trend that we're gradually transitioning to electric pianos rather than traditional, or is it driven by costs, or what's the rationale there?
Thank you, Carol. This is Kim. Both Thornton Ferry School and Mastercola Elementary School, they have moved to electric pianos. And in looking at the piano that our current music teacher at Reeds Ferry School uses, it's very antiquated, sounds kind of twangy, and it's really not worth continuing to repair. So I guess I would say it's a trend among the 3 lower elementary schools.
Okay. My other question is, hypothetically, if we transition to full-time kindergarten, what would be the earliest that would be implemented?
So as you know, the proposal for full-day kindergarten has not yet been approved via a warrant article. If it does hypothetically get approved as a warrant article, it's left up to the voters in April. And if the voters voted in, it would be implemented for the 2018-2019 school year.
Carol, I think we'll be having more discussion on that when we're working on warrant articles.
Okay, I'll hold off till then.
Should there be a warrant article presented by the school board or a petition as to what they might want to do?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to distinguish. I don't want to put the cart before the horse. I agree we haven't taken any action on that yet. But if we were to, then that could alter a lot of these other numbers also, I would think.
It could probably change some, yes.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
The piano you currently have, what? Yes.
So I just wanted to do a clarification. If a proposed warrant article were to go through, that warrant article would encompass all expenses and would not impact the operating budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
You all set, Carol?
Yes, I am.
I have a question on your old piano. Probably weighs about, what, 500 or 600 pounds? And it's a little tough for an elementary school kid to push it around. And on average, what do you spend for a piano tuner to come in and tune that piano?
I put $100 into my budget every year for the piano tuner.
That's all?
It's, like I said, it's very twangy.
Ah. Okay. You're getting one of the 3 blind mice to do it then. Okay. Any other questions or comments on the elementary school budgets? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Next up is the upper elementary school. And I'd like to invite Marcia and her lovely assistant to come up forward. The liaisons for that was Shelley was the team leader and Chuck Mower. So Marcia, if you'd like to make your introductions of yourself and your assistant, I would most appreciate it.
Yes, good evening. I'm Marcia McGill, the principal of the upper elementary, and with me this evening I have William Morris, our assistant principal.
And Would you like the liaisons to speak first or you to speak first?
Yes, we had the opportunity to meet with Mrs. Jacoby on Monday morning, and we discussed that, and she is going to start us this evening.
Okay, Shelley, it's all yours.
So we met and went over a few things. So a couple of call-outs that we had were continuing.
Is your mic on?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Stan.
thank you.
For the first time ever, I got it right, Stan. So a couple of things that we went over. The cafeteria placing of the tables. We're in our third phase of many. So we're still working through that, and I still think that, the beginning of the end isn't quite there yet, but we're working on it. And also in the science rooms, there are some stools that are needing replacement, and we're in the second phase of that, and I think that that's going to continue to go. One of the big line items is for our art kind of team. It's the Killen Rex and the Killen, and that is kind of the biggest line item, and I did have an opportunity. Marcia and I went and actually went into the art room, and yes, we are definitely ready to do that after 30 years, Marcia?
37.
So I think
1983.
So I think that we're ready to go for that, and definitely need to move forward with that. And everything else looks like it's really in great shape, and I think that the budget is good to go, and I'll let you take over.
Okay, great.
Chuck, do you have anything you want to add? Okay. Marcia, it's all yours.
Thank
We
you.
had a few words.
Mrs. Jacoby did a wonderful job in explaining. We continue to purchase those resources that are needed to continue with our reading and writing program and all the resources that are needed. Purchasing those materials for our standards-based math program. I think Mrs. Jacoby talked about the kiln in there and the need to replace that. It is vintage 1983. Replacement of our cafeteria tables. We're going from those very long tables to more rounded or oval tables to help promote social development, with children, and also replacement of our science stools to chairs. That's pretty much our budget for the 18-19 school year.
Okay. Kevin Bobbitt.
Hello. I have just two quick questions. One is on the I guess the phys ed equipment line. It's dropped by 600. I can't remember what was in it last year that made it higher.
Tennis tables.
So
we're continuing with tennis tables.
We're continuing, but we got more of them last year.
Yes.
Or better ones or something.
Would be the same table, but
Okay,
it would
just
just
more
be
of
the
them.
quantity.
Got it. Okay. And then just to follow up on the kiln, is this one a 30-year life expectancy too? I mean, what's normal for a kiln? Does anybody know?
I don't know that, to tell you the truth, but we know that this one has been running since 1983.
All right.
In looking at some of the other kilns around the district, there are some that are older, but they have been being replaced.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Other questions or comments for the upper elementary school? Well, I'm going to ask you the question only because you're here and it's your building. What's happening with the bats?
Matt could probably talk a little
Well, in
bit more,
terms of
but
how is it affecting your daily school life, having to shuffle things around? What have you had to do to compensate for that? And when do you honestly expect to get back in the full building again?
Well, I want to compliment the JMU staff. They have been wonderful just to move or to adjust, to accept people, to share their rooms with them, teachers sharing resources, so I can't say enough about the positive attitude from our staff, positive attitude with our students, as well as our parents and our community, so I want to start with that. We've moved teachers from that area of the building into rooms. Some teachers are doubled up. Special educators are doubled up. People, again, are in different places, but their colleagues have shared with them, and we have all the resources provided for them to continue to offer the programming that we normally do. We're hoping to be in there, I would say, Matt, maybe you could help me, maybe right before February vacation or the beginning of March.
Stan, can I add one question to that?
Sure.
There's people in town who think that this is like a $75, this should have been like a $75 call to, Garfield Pest Control to fix, right? Do you mind just elaborating, since we are, broadcast in Merrimack, just give a little bit of detail about how involved this was, that this wasn't just a simple little fix that you can call. I don't want to go off topic, but I know it's come up, and there are people in town that can't understand why the cost of this was as extravagant as it was.
Being the resident bat expert at this point in my life, the reason why is that section of the building's two-story. There's an outside layer of brick. There's an air space. There's some foam insulation. There's some wire that goes through the foam insulation attached to the interior block that holds the brick up. And the bat residue was dropped from the top story all the way down to the bottom. We found this out in sections. We cut a square up top, looked in it, could see something, cut a square down below. This is of the brick exterior wall. If we could still see something, that section of wall had to come down. It was 120 linear feet that we had to replace of bricks times 2 stories. So all that had to come down. All the bricks that came down, of course, they had all the fungus on them, so 5 dumpsters came from BFI, took all the old bricks. You think, well, you can use the old bricks, can't you? No, you have to throw these away. And so after that was done, the mason with the pest remediation service were working hand in hand to remove the bricks, to clean the areas, disinfect everything. The whole area was, the insulation came down. The block wall was sprayed, painted, everything like that with an antifungal paint. There was a series of 4 or 5 tests that we did as far as the air quality goes. 2 of the rooms tested positive for Cryptococcus N. It's a spore. And a lot of that's probably stemming from when we started to open up everything and find the extent of it. There was probably around 200 to 300 bats living there at one point in time over the course of a year. And they probably got up underneath the flashing of the top of the building. When we had a meeting with the state of New Hampshire, the Department of Education, they came down. The person in charge of school approval, Marjorie Schoonemaker, she looked at it and she said there was no way you could have foreseen this or avoided this or whatever. This was like a total something that she's never seen before, something that I've never seen before. So this was an involved process. You just can't take the stuff off, have maintenance, get rid of it. It has to be done by people with respirators, Tyvek suits. And now the brick is going up, and that's done in a tented, heated area because masons have to work in a heated area. Cement doesn't cure in the cold. And so that process is going up too. Then we'll probably do another air test. That takes a week, week and a half to come back. And hopefully by then, everything's clean right now because we did a test of like 24 samples. But before we let anybody in, after everything's back together, we're going to do that last test. So testing alone is probably $15,000, $20,000 that we've done to ensure that the rooms and the space are safe. So it's a very, very involved process, which we did not know the extent of it until we started doing more exploration and more exploration to find the beginning point and to find the ending point. So it's not a $75,000 job. It's very involved. That answer your question? Thanks.
So, Marcia, we still think, and we think March, beginning of March, we're good to go?
I'm hoping for that. Matt, am I correct about that?
Yeah, definitely the beginning of March.
Okay.
But probably after, when's February vacation?
The last week in February.
Last week in February?
First couple days of March.
Yeah, okay. So probably maybe the first part of, a little bit before or over vacation, we could start moving stuff back in, so you'd be
Okay.
ready after that.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Carol, do you have anything?
Yeah, a couple things. Still on the bats. First question, I guess, is for Matt. Is there anything proactively we can do to examine all the rest of our buildings to make sure this isn't happening elsewhere? I do have another question, but I'll let him answer that one first.
Yeah, well, there is. A few years ago, we had done this sort of thing to some of our buildings, high school being one of them, where we sealed the building envelopes. In fact, we did that to all our buildings years ago. And these bats didn't get into the building because the envelope was sealed. It was just the flashing that had a minor gap in it. So in the spring, when the weather gets better, we'll walk around with the bat remediation experts and see if he can point out any areas that we need to address. And if we need to address them, we'll address them at that time.
Okay, that sounds good. And then my other question may sound really dumb, but why couldn't we have just steam cleaned the bricks and reused them rather than tossing them? And I'm not even looking at it from a cost-saving perspective, but I'm looking at it more from not wanting to contribute to some landfill.
Well, it would have been a huge expense. First, you have to chip off all the mortar. You'd have to do that in a contained area. And then to clean them, because they're, bricks are porous, I'm not sure that you could have cleaned them sufficiently in order to reuse them. That's a guess on my part, but I know it was definitely more cost-effective to just get rid of them with the bat residue on them than try and sit there and reuse them. And plus, when you're doing that, that's very time-consuming. So it probably would have pushed the schedule out 3-4 weeks easily. This time, when we did it and we got rid of them, we ordered new bricks and they were on site probably first week of January.
Okay, sounds good.
All set, Carol?
Yes.
Heather?
Just following up on that, just want to make sure that the question kind of comment, but when we're talking about the cost effectiveness, making sure that we're being green for the environment and that kind of thing, wouldn't you agree that the process that you used is also the best interest of students' health?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
And we currently don't have any more bats residing in there that we know of, right?
That is correct, yes.
And just so, again, for those at home who look at public television in Merrimack continuously, why isn't this covered partially by insurance?
There's we belong to New Hampshire Primex. They're a public exchange, insurance exchange, and there is an exclusion in the policy as far as rodent damage. And so this is considered a rodent or something of that effect, and that's considered damage, and so it wasn't covered by the insurance company.
And it wouldn't qualify for catastrophic aid in a future year, or getting partially reimbursed by the state, or not?
Well, there is a fund that the state of New Hampshire has set up. It's a facility safety fund. I forget the exact name of it. And we have applied to that fund. And the announcements have been made or will be made shortly if we get approval.
And realistically, how much could you possibly get back from that fund?
Could get $180,000. So right now, the board has voted to take $205 from the Capital Reserve Fund. If that application that we put in, we did put in an application probably the same week we had the issue. If that application gets approved by I believe it's the Executive Council, we will get back the $180. So the rest will come from the operating budget, from maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think it's important that everybody in town knows about what's going on. And sometimes this TV channel might be a good place.
Oh, I hope so.
Any other questions or comments for upper elementary schools? Excuse me. We only got one of them. I don't see any hands raised, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving right along, next on the agenda is the middle school. And if I could ask the middle school staff to come on down and introduce yourselves. And for the middle school liaisons, Shelley was the lead, and Jordan was also on that team, too. So if you would like to introduce yourselves to everybody, please.
So my name is Adam Carragher. I'm the principal at Merrimack Middle School.
And my name is
Nope.
And my name is Shauna Demore. I'm the assistant principal.
And would you like Shelley and Jordan to go first, or do you want to go first?
Absolutely. I would invite Shelley and
Okay.
Jordan.
It's up to you again, Shelley.
So we met on Monday, so pretty kind of, I don't want to say easy, but we kind of have it laid out. So we're on the final stages of some to replace science labs and art room stools, and also one cafeteria table and then 6 bookshelves. So basically everything that they presented and kind of proposed, it was really not a lot above and beyond what we have seen historically with them. A lot of the kind of noise over some of the things that have gone on in the middle school are kind of behind us. So relatively simple kind of going forward things that I think, between the bookshelves and kind of the final phases of a couple of things, I think we're good to go. It was, I don't want to say easy, but yay. It didn't take us that long to go through everything. So all good.
Jordan? Okay. Your turn.
Yep. No, we met on Monday. It was a great opportunity. We discussed a number of things, from the furniture to math textbooks, where we're kind of in a different situation where we have partially implemented a number of the texts, but we're also collaborating currently with the district committee to determine the algebra program more at the secondary level, which the high school and the middle school are working together in order to determine what the correct program or the best program is for that. And that was really about it. Everything else that we have in our budget is just a continued commitment to our district logic model, and so much is based on our per pupil expenditures and our supply accounts. So we welcome any questions that we
The
might
one
be-
thing that
Oh.
I didn't mention was the field trip. It's kind of
yes.
making sure that we took care of the 7th and 8th grade cost of the field trip, and that's within the budget too, and I think that that's important to kind of continue.
And how's your SRO working out?
We love having Tom around, and he's just a real valuable resource for our students and for our faculty, and just a great presence and a wealth of knowledge.
Any other questions or comments? Boy, we don't even have a football game.
How's that roof?
Roof is wonderful. It's great. Thank you. It's great.
Doesn't leak, right?
Want me to ask a follow-up?
Carol, you have anything?
No, I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up is Merrimack High School. And Ken Johnson and the troops are coming down. The liaisons for the high school were Kevin Bobbitt was the lead, Heather Gage, David Ilg, and Amanda Heidberger. Ken, if you'd like to introduce your compadres,
Thank you,
please.
Stan. Very fortunate to have to my right Mr. Rich Zampieri. He has been with me each of my 16 years that I've served as principal of the high school. And to my left, Peter Bergeron, who's been with me 13 of those 16 years, and they are outstanding assistants.
And would you like to start, or would you like the liaisons to start?
Oh, I would absolutely yield to Kevin Bobbitt at this
Okay,
time.
Kevin.
Thank you, sir. So we had a little trouble getting our meeting arranged due to a snowstorm, so it was a small group of myself and Ken's team. So, but it worked out all right. We had some write-in questions and that sort of thing. So the meeting was good, productive, good snacks as usual. You know, as everybody else has said about the school budgets and their individual schools, is pretty straightforward. There are some things of note. Ken does a nice job of putting it in his cover page, which I like, how it's highlighted the important things or things that are different. I guess everything's important, so that's the wrong word, but things that stand out. We talked a bit about the new math program, the new curriculum, which is requiring new textbooks, which are, a significant number, but obviously well worth it. We have a lot of students. What's the total enrollment in the high school?
It's approximately between 1,250 to 1,275.
Right, so there's a lot of students that benefit from these math textbooks.
That's correct.
Everybody takes math. There were also some business textbooks and a couple of items for tech ed for working on motors and that sort of thing, which seemed, Ken, you mentioned that was a kind of a revitalized program over the last year. New teacher, I think, who's really amped it up. And these are not outrageous requests, but things that will make the program better for more students. So those were kind of the highlights from my perspective.
Great.
Heather, David, do you have anything else you'd like to add about the high school budget?
I am so sorry I missed the snacks, but.
Well, I think Kevin was exceptionally well fed. I think you would agree.
I do apologize, just for the record. With the snowstorm, and unfortunately, working in Concord sometimes causes its issues, but I did review this. I don't necessarily have any questions. I do want to make sure that you're getting everything that you need, and hope that you'll let us know if there's anything additional to that.
No, we think it's a very responsible budget.
Thank you.
Okay. David?
I'm all.
You're all set?
I am, thank you.
And Amanda is not with us this evening. Your turn.
I just do this. It may sound terribly redundant, but I often do this for the sake of the viewing audience. I read a budget piece so that anybody has specific questions. I just want to make it completely transparent, if you don't mind. All right,
Be my
thank you.
guest.
So many of the line items have been reduced or level funded. However, there are some proposed increases, new text, and additional equipment in several departments, which will add to and enhance our programs. Marginal increases in various supply budgets can be attributed to higher costs for basic supplies. Regarding the new texts, the following are requested. The math department is requesting new math texts and support materials for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 classes, which are aligned with the new district math curriculum. The business department is requesting new accounting texts aligned with the National Academy of Finance standards, as well as the curriculum approved by Southern New Hampshire University for 2 dual enrollment classes. Regarding the additional equipment, the following items are requested. The technical education department requests 1 engine start cart and 1 engine repair trainer to support the automotive program, and the art department requests 1 large format color printer to be used by both the technology, education, and art classes to support the curriculum. So those would be the things that would jump out, that would be a little bit out of the ordinary.
Carol, do you have any questions? I'm going to start with you first.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I do have a couple. One is the line for transportation to other high schools went up by 3.5%, and I was curious whether that was due primarily to more students participating or whether it was just the general cost of the transportation that went up.
Carol, it's the general cost of the transportation that's gone up 3.5%.
Okay. Under co-curricular transportation, 2 programs, I'm just curious because I've never heard of them. Envirothon and LifeSmart. Can you tell me what they are?
So the first one, Envirothon, is a science-based club that we've had for a number of years. And they travel throughout the state for different competitions, mainly in the fall. Not sure if Mr. Zampieri wants to talk about LifeSmarts.
Thank you, Mr. Bergeron. Happy to. LifeSmarts is a financial literacy co-curricular club off of students, many that participate in the Academy of Finance, and I'm very proud to say that we are the 2-time defending state champions with that co-curricular club.
Anything else, Carol?
Well, a comment on the LifeSmarts is I'm very pleased to hear you're doing that as an accountant financial literacy, I think, is something that has been sorely lacking across the board and nationwide throughout the school system. So anything we can do to improve on that, I think that's a skill every student needs as they progress into adulthood. So I applaud that. And my only other question was the new accounting text, simply because you're now in my field of expertise. Is there anything you could either send me through the computer, a link or something that would kind of give me an overview of what kind of a text you're converting to?
I'll be happy to work with you to send you the information that we were provided upon the request that talks about all the, not only the text, but the site licenses, online work, videos, drills, all the extra that come with the text.
Great, I would appreciate that. Stan has my email if you don't, so if you can just send me whatever you have available, I'd be very interested.
Be happy to provide that.
Rich, I'll give you the email address after the meeting.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Heather?
This may actually be a question for Mark. I'm not sure because it pertains to all schools, and I'm pretty sure I asked the question last year, and I just can't remember the answer. But with the professional development lines or professional meetings for all of the schools, the number just seems extraordinarily low. Can you help me understand? Because I think it's somewhere else in the budgets where we ensure that our leadership and our educators are getting the professional development that they need to help our students. Um, 26 is for the high school.
So the professional development money is primarily in the district account?
Yep.
And that's kind of part of the contract that we have with the teachers.
Okay.
But we oversee it it's in the district budget.
Okay.
Yep.
And how do you break that down per school?
Well, it's not really
done that way.
Down per school.
Okay.
No. I can describe it here or when we get to the district.
We can do that when we get to the district.
Okay.
Thank you very much,
Sure.
Mark.
Chuck?
I'm curious to what extent we employ CNC technology in our tech ed program.
So I need a clarification there. I always think of CTE, Certified Technical, but when you say CNC, Chuck, could you clarify for me?
Computer-controlled networks.
Okay.
For carving, routing, lathe operation, what we typically find we would want to be preparing students for industrial positions.
I could answer it first. If Rich wants to expand on that, he can. So, as you know, we are a comprehensive high school. We are not a CTE school. CTE are Certified Technical Education schools. You probably worked in some of those. We have them nearby, such as Nashua North, Nashua South, Alvern, Concord, and so on. And those are schools that have additional funding that support those new technologies. Traditionally, what we are is a school that will budget for new individual pieces of machinery, but not what I would refer to as CNC. Are you all set with that, Chuck? So in other words, so ours are not what you would call the computer-controlled pieces of equipment. Rather, these are individual pieces of equipment. We try to do to-date equipment when we can, but that is not what we are as a high school. We're not a vocational center as the other 8 vocational centers are around the state that are funded differently, they hire differently, they pay differently. That's the nature of the beast as opposed to a comprehensive high school like Merrimack.
Well, I didn't mean to imply that my expectations were for us to be a vocational tech center for the region by any means, but CNC is
practically a home workshop feature these days, and particularly with our interest in continued computer technologies. I'm a little bit amazed, I guess, that we haven't had some rudimentary introduction to our students of what's available beyond the hammer, the chisel, and the square.
Well, we have in some cases, and I think we talked about that, and we addressed that last year, and I think Kevin and I think Mr. Yogi even addressed it earlier. For example, we're attempting to not only resurrect but expand our auto program. So we have additional equipment this year. We've requested equipment for next year. We've had equipment donated. Many thanks to George Dykstra, as you are probably familiar with him and his work around the state. And also, we're working on doing some fundamental work here and then linking up with, for example, MCC to expand our automotive program.
So you're saying I should have no particular concerns for the status of our tech ed program?
No, I think I'm saying to you that what we are trying to do is supply what we can to our kids, and that when it comes to the types of technology you're talking about, we're trying to extend our programs by working with universities such as Manchester Community College.
Are you saying that we have the capacity here for our students to receive this kind of training through a cooperative program with local colleges?
Do you want to speak to that, Richard?
We are currently in discussions to have some of our students interested in automotive certifications build a relationship with the Manchester Community College that we started discussions last year. So that is not in place currently, but is something that is being discussed. To your other question, I might be able to shed a little bit of light. We do have classes where our students are involved using technology for robotics classes, 3D printing, product engineering, something of that nature. They may not be necessarily networked through the whole department, but there is certainly that sort of technology being utilized by our students.
And the other thing I think is that Carol Lang alluded to it earlier. She talked about the relationship we have with other schools in the area. So when you were asking, I was trying to be very specific to what we have in those departments. But remember that as long as I've been here, we've been partnering with Nashua North, Nashua South, and Alvern, that are CTE schools that do have that type of sophisticated technology. And if a student in our school wants to be a part of those vocational programs, we do our very best to link our students with those students.
Well, thank you very much. I think you've given a very apt description of what we don't possess.
Stan, could I ask a follow-up to that?
Go right ahead, Carol.
Our partnership with the other vocational schools, I don't know if things have changed since I last looked into it, but the last I knew, we often had more students who wanted those slots than there were slots available. And I'm wondering if that is still the case, and if it is, why we haven't looked at, there are other towns and surrounding communities that also offer vocational education programs. So if we're not able to find enough slots with the schools we're already partnered with, why we haven't expanded?
Well, I think I can address that for you. So where we have had, first of all, we have been able to meet those requests, but where we have a renewed interest is in the automotive program, and that's why for the past year we've been working with MCC trying to develop a relationship whereby our kids can begin here and go there. In fact, we've had visitations to MCC, kids have been exposed to that technology, and there is that level of excitement for the program. So we will do our very best, and we have over the years, to meet our students' needs. It's rare that we get closed out, but when we did find out in the automotive program that there was expanded interest, and that's really because, as you know, there are so many of those jobs available in New Hampshire that haven't been filled. That's why we reached out to local colleges. We also did reach out to NCC, and they were very receptive. It's just that at the present time, we have a better relationship in terms of direct conversation with MCC.
So otherwise, excluding the automotive program, students who want these vocational courses are able to find slots.
No, but she's asking for students who have interest in other vocational programs. There are slots that we fill.
There are certainly a number of programs that our students request at the other three schools that Mr. Johnson mentioned, whether it's agriculture, culinary, cosmetology, foods, things of those natures. So we have kids that apply. Sometimes we get all of our students in. Really, it is up to the school, the home school, to decide how many slots they give to their students, and then they go to the surrounding areas to offer up any number of available slots. Sometimes there's slots open that we don't fill, depending upon the chosen vocation.
I guess I'm not getting to the root of what I'm concerned about, is if there are students looking for these vocational courses, and if there are not always slots available for them, why wouldn't we partner with some of the other surrounding towns that also offer these courses to try to find slots for our students in those schools?
Well, to answer you directly, those other schools that you'd be referring to, if they are not CTE schools, they wouldn't have those things available necessarily either, because they are not certified technical education schools. They are comprehensive schools, much like ourselves. So presently we have 43 students who want to take things that we don't directly offer, which can utilize the type of technology that Chuck Mower is referring to.
Okay, I'll have to do a little bit of more research on my own. I was under the impression that there were at least a couple of other surrounding towns that were qualified to offer these courses, and maybe I'm misinformed on that, so I'll have to do a little research, but thank you.
Carol, I will, along with sending you the information on the business textbooks, I will get you the data on how many students actually got turned away based on the requests here at Merrimack High School. I don't believe that it's as great a number as might be assumed.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, gentlemen.
Stan, always a pleasure. I really do. Thank you for having us here tonight. It's great. Thank you. Great questions.
Next on our list is Carol. I'm going to say good night,
Okay.
because we're going to be doing minutes and then public participation and adjourning.
Okay, sounds good. Talk to you later.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Night.
Next up is the minutes for the 28th of November. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve these minutes? Moved by David Hill. Do I have a second? By John Hanson. Any corrections, additions, or deletions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the minutes of the 28th of November, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Passes with 2 abstentions. Next, we come to public participation, where we have everybody disguised as a blue seat. Except, I would like to offer the superintendent and 2 assistants, if you would like to come and say some words of wisdom, you're more than welcome to. Okay.
Stan, you're telling me that there's no public participation tonight?
Well, there is if somebody wanted to participate.
Just making sure that all of their concerns were addressed.
That's right. Next, we come to other, and the other is that we next meet next Tuesday night, the 30th of January, right here at 7 o'clock. We'll be reviewing the rest of the budgets, department budgets, and then after that, the following week, we will be doing warrant articles and having a work session. You will notice there are a few snow dates built into the schedule. To be quite frank, I hope we do not have to use any of them. we've got this room for the whole shooting match until the public hearing, so we don't have to go pack up and move to a different spot. I would also like to thank Merrimack TV for making sure they could come and record our meetings. Yes, Dave. Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry.
When can we expect to get copies of any proposed warrant articles? I seem to remember last year we got them kind of as we walked into the meeting. It'd be great if we could get them ahead of time.
I believe that, subject to the school board voting on them, the hope is to have something for us next Tuesday when we review all the rest of the budgets, something to hand out and just briefly explain what's going on. Yes, Marge.
I was just going to think that Naomi was going to speak about it. If not, we can. The warrants are going to be voted on by the board on February 5th.
Could I ask you to come to the microphone, please?
The warrants are going to be voted on by the board on February 5th. However, if you would like a draft, they're going to come back from legal counsel. That's where they are right now. And we'll just put draft across without a vote. Then you would at least see what the topics are that they're going to be deliberating, which might be helpful. Would that be helpful?
Okay. And then they also have until, I'd have to look up the date for the petition warrant articles. The 12th, I think it is. I remember I got it, but it's before our public hearing. I know that. Or it's on the public hearing? Okay. So we'll get them hopefully a little bit in advance just to read them, but
I understand they won't be final or voted on or anything, but at least we can read them and get an understanding of that sort of thing.
okay.
Because you're voting on the 5th, which is the day before our meeting where we're supposed to vote on them, right? Okay.
Anybody other than leaving this lovely establishment have anything else they need to bring up? Seeing none, I want to thank you all for coming here tonight, and let's hope for a good, successful budget season. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by John, second by Many. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all, and good night.